Mars, Jupiter, Japan. Welcome back to Sound of Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to the Week 6 review and the Week 7 tips. Quote on Riley O'Brien, I've had a mare this week with a solid 2 out of 9. Uh, Aside from that, we have a special guest, Big Baz. How are you today? He's having a laughing fit. Good to see that. Baz, how are you? We're back from Baz having a bit of a laughing fit. Baz, how are you today?
Good, thank you, Dylan. I'm going well. Ready to get into some footy predictions.
Zave over there laughing. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
All right, we may as well. Have you got anything else to say, boys, before we hop straight?
Nothing from me yet.
All right, let's move on to the round 6 review. The first game, Geelong versus Brisbane. I tipped Brisbane. I know you did, Zave. For Geelong, Hawkins, Menegola played well. Sam Simpson, impressive in his debut. And the big trio of Danger, Gazza, and Selwood back to their very best. And for the Lions, of course, Lockie Neal, an absolute star. But it's hard for them to win games when your small forwards can't create. Charlie Cameron and Lincoln McCarthy having rare off games.
Yeah, as you said, I tipped Brisbane. They started off really well and they got out to a big lead. And I was about to phone my uncle, who's a Geelong supporter, and give him a bit of lip. But obviously, Geelong came back. Wasn't so good with Hugh McCluggage having the sore shoulder and a few other injuries on both teams with Duncan, and I think it was Quinton Narkle was out as well. So that wasn't very good. But obviously, Geelong had an impressive second half, and Patrick Dangerfield, very impressive again.
Yeah, good to see first game. Sam Simpson, he got 27 touches. That's a very good first game performance. 6 marks and 5 tackles as well. So sure to get that one into my Supercoach side.
We'll move on to the next game. Collingwood versus Hawthorn. Surprisingly, not the worst game of the round, even though it was 59-27. Atrocious to watch. Darcy Moore carrying their backline, obviously, with Jeremy Howe out. Quainer impressive in his first game back, and the Pies haven't lost a single first quarter this year. And I think they would have won by about 100 if Sicily wasn't there.
Yeah, I think Darcy Moore was obviously very good again. Quainer, as you said, and Sicily was pretty much the only team and on the only player on Hawthorn's team that played well. I think might be in for a bit of shoulder surgery after carrying that team, but he was very good. The Pies pretty impressive again, but low scoring game. I heard a lot of like Alistair Clarkson. It was his fault for the low scoring game, but I don't really buy into that. I think a lot of the games this year have been low scoring, and I don't really think it's fair to blame it on any singular person.
Mr. Clarkson said a couple of weeks ago when his comments on the holding the ball free kicks in the AFL has just been downhill since then. I've really not enjoyed players just picking up the ball, getting first to the ball, and then getting pinned for it straight away. So, yeah, rubbish freeze there. But they're not paying the right ones either. He might have been right saying that they need more holding the ball free kicks, but it's the ones where they just drop the ball and it just rolls away. Those are the ones they should be paying.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit different in both weeks. I think just last week, the games, I feel like there weren't enough holding the ball free kicks paid, and perhaps this week there are a few too many. But I think if they can strike the right balance, and it'll be better for the game.
St Kilda versus Fremantle. I don't really want to talk about this game, but I will anyway. It's hard life being a Saints fan, obviously, from 2009, 2010 to choking a 36-point lead and then somehow recovering only to give up a last-minute goal from Lockie Schultz. Full credit to Freo, though. They were outstanding after the first, and Sean Darcy, before his injury, was very impressive.
Yeah, I think obviously it was really, really, really good first quarter from St Kilda, and it looked like they were going to win by a big score versus probably one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. But even though they've won back-to-back games now, but it was really disappointing last half and second quarter to let Fremantle come back into it and eventually win the game. I think would have to be disappointing for all St Kilda fans.
Yeah, also Nat Fyfe spent the whole second half in the goal square, and I was watching that thinking, what the hell are they doing? But came out later he was injured. So
West Coast versus Adelaide. It was good to see Riley O'Brien keeping true to his word and winning that matchup against Nick Nat. But the class from Nick Nat, buying him a new phone, I found that hilarious, to be honest. And good to see Tim Kelly and Dom Sheed back in their usual form, just collecting the ball, obviously. Good ball usage and winning games for that Eagle side.
I did see a meme that Riley O'Brien threw the phone out immediately once he found out that it was a Samsung, but that's neither here nor there. I think, yeah, he did win that matchup. I think from what I saw, he was definitely better than Nick Nat. But yeah, good game. West Coast obviously got over the line, and I think Adelaide is going to really struggle this year.
Mm.
Yeah, I like that you touch on that Riley Brown beat Nick Nat, because everywhere I saw on the football shows and everything, they were saying Nick Nat got the last laugh and Nick Nat beat him, but
Yeah,
I don't think he did at all.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I think everyone in the media was all for Nick Nat winning, but I didn't.
Nick Nat, he kicked a goal early, and I think that's what kind of sparked that discussion because he called Riley O'Brien. Don't know if you saw that celebration.
As soon as Nick Nat kicked that goal, I got about 6 messages from Xavier.
Yeah, that's facts.
Melbourne versus Gold Coast. I thought the Suns had it in the bag, but Petrarca sealed the deal. A great win for a struggling D side, and Isaac Rankine, what a star. He could take the rising star still, potentially.
Yeah, I think his first few touches were incredible. Obviously, his first goal with that little step, then the one where he read Max Gawn's tap, and the one where he kicked it off the ground, this soccer-style goal. I think all three of those goals were quite good, and yeah, I think he can win the Rising Star. I'm not sure that he will, but I think it's probably out of him and Max King from the Saints. I think they're probably the two favourites to win it at the moment. Yeah, but good win for the D's. They got on board, got another win, and hopefully they can start putting a few more together.
Jeez, I think you're jumping out of the gates a bit quick with the Rising Star there. It's his first game and you're already calling him one of the favourites.
Yeah, well, I think none of the other ones really this season have been that impressive, other than obviously King and Rao. But Rao's going to miss the rest of the season, it looks like. So he's going to really struggle. And I think King probably has my tip at the moment.
Yep, fair cool.
The night game on the Saturday, Essendon versus North. Didn't get to watch too much of this game, but I know Goldstein and Simpkin were unreal once again. Also, the number one draft pick, Andy McGrath for the Dons, showing potential to pull through as a future best and fairest, maybe.
Yeah, I think the biggest talking point from this game, I think, was that Dylan Shield got suspended. I think Essendon might struggle a little bit more in future weeks with him out, but yeah, obviously, good win for them. Still only lost the one game to the best team in the league, but other than that, good win.
While we're on the suspensions, do you think Ben Long should have had 3 weeks as well?
No, I think his was a lot worse than Shields was. I know. Yeah, I think Ben Long sort of looked at Darcy before he put him down, so I think that's probably a little bit worse.
Yeah, I think a big point here is that Devon Smith got 23 touches and 6 tackles, but he did not score well in my Supercoach team, so I'm not very happy with that one.
Yeah, that had a lot to do. You told me about the efficiency in his clangers. I think you said 50% efficiency and 7 clangers, which wasn't good. But also, just quickly on the Shield topic, I think the fact that Curtis Taylor came back onto the ground, I think that's going to help his case a lot compared to Darcy, who was out for the whole game.
Well, he got 2 weeks in the end. And found out last night, I believe, or maybe the night before. GWS versus Port, and what a game this was in the last quarter. Port ran away, and young Kane Farrell was the man in the clutch, kicking a bomb from outside 50. A positive for Supercoach. I know you always love it. Lockie Whitfield played extremely well.
Yeah, Lockie Whitfield back to his best, it looks like. He'd struggled a bit in the last few weeks. I think he with the tag, he's obviously struggled a little bit more, and he was getting tagged again in this game until the person that was tagging him, I can't quite think of who it was, but he got injured and missed the second half of the game, and Lockie Whitfield really started to stand up.
Sorry to interrupt. Cam Sutcliffe it was.
Yeah, you're right, Cam Sutcliffe. And then on the Farrell goal, I saw probably a minute after that, Trent McKenzie tried to kick one from a similar spot, but 10 metres further out, and he made the distance pretty easily, but went out on the full. So I think good to see him launching a few of those cannons again.
Absolutely. Now we move to the worst game of the week and possibly the year, Richmond versus Sydney. Baz, I know your boys won, but surely you can't say you enjoyed the game.
Oh, to be honest, usually you say a win's a win, but when you get 6 or 7 injuries, I mean, come on, it's a bit ridiculous. It's a bit like that Port Adelaide preseason game we had a few years back when we had about 8 injuries and Damien Hardwick just wanted to call the game off. It just seemed everybody just kept getting injured the whole game.
Yeah, I think obviously there's been a lot of talk about John Longmire as well holding a player behind the ball, but he said in his press conference, which I agreed with, he was saying that over the last few years, Richmond have liked to push one of their forwards up to the contest, and he was just saying that his player didn't follow the player, which in my eyes was actually pretty smart of him. They obviously managed to hold Richmond to just 34 points, and going into the game, if you had said to Sydney, Richmond's only going to score 34 points, try and beat them, I think they'd take it every time. So.
Yeah, but also John Longmire's his whole career, his coaching career, all he's done is sat extra players in defence, and that's why they never score high scores, Sydney, because it's just all of that defend, and flogging the defence. But
yeah, Carlton versus Western Bulldogs. What a performance from your Blues, Dave. The tall forwards showing up for the Dogs. You wouldn't have thought it was Lockie Hunter's first game back either. He had leather poisoning at the end of the game, but yeah, great performance from the Blues.
Yeah, Lockie Hunter was good. Bailey Smith was also good for the Dogs, but it was actually quite a poor performance for them. 52 points. Carlton managed to score 100 points, first team to do so since round 2. And for a team that's not particularly known for being a very high-scoring team, but we've started playing well, playing a good brand of footy at the moment. And I was quite impressed that our two best players in Doherty and Cripps struggled to find the footy all game, but we still managed to get across the line. Matt Kennedy was a good in for us. I was talking about him in our last podcast, saying that he's got some serious potential, as well as Will Setterfield, who's been very good over the last few weeks of footy.
I didn't actually get around to watching this game because I was busy, but so can't really comment on this one.
No, that's fair enough. Now, this week, I think I've said this every week or the last 3 weeks. It's a hard week to tip. There's many good games, and I think the stadiums just make it a little bit more interesting. Tonight, we've got a great matchup, 2 solid midfields, Geelong versus Collingwood. I've got the Cats in front of 30,000 fans at Optus Stadium. Packed stadium considering the circumstances surrounding this year. The Cats beat the flag favourites last week in a colossal comeback, but the Pies, they may be the best defensive team in the business. Since the restart, they've held teams to 36, 37, 66, 63 and 27.
Yeah, I'm going to tip the Pies. Obviously, as you said, they've got one of the best defences in the league at the moment. Darcy Moore obviously starring for them, but I think they might be able to get across the line. I think this will be a really close one, though. Obviously, Geelong really impressive last week.
I've also got Geelong. I can't see Collingwood beating him.
There's been a lot of rumours in there going around that Stephen Coniglio might be getting dropped fairly soon, but I have a question for you. Do you reckon that Stephen Coniglio or Jordan De Goey would be dropped first?
I think De Goey. Just because Coniglio's... Has Coniglio been in form this year, though?
No, not at all, but neither's De Goey. He's averaging less than, I think, just about half a goal a game and about 12 possessions a game. But
I don't think De Goey has form. I think he's one of the worst players in the league.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go quite that far, but I definitely think he's probably the captain of my overrated team along with Nick Nat, but I don't think he's that good. And
I think Coniglio has the ability to just impact that team a bit more because he's in the midfield, whereas De Goey sits up forward and kind of has to rely on the ball to come to him, if you know what I'm saying. So
I think Coniglio has been pushed forward and playing a little bit more forward last year than perhaps he should be. This year, than perhaps he should be. But yeah, I think he's a better player than De Goey, as well as being the captain of his club. I can't remember the last time I saw a captain get dropped. So. And
Coniglio also has a cool name and a song named after him as well. So can't see a player with a song being named after him getting dropped.
On the Friday night up at Metricon, we've got the Dons and the Bulldogs. I've got Essendon. Should be a close game up there, though. 2 new debutants, Ned Cale for the Bombers and Cody Waitman for the Bulldogs. So it'll be interesting to see what they bring to the table. But I think the Dons should get over comfortably.
Yeah. I've got Essendon, but I don't think they're going to... I think this will be a good game as well. I think it'll be pretty close, but I think I think they can just get across the line.
GWS versus Brisbane. Once again, I think it'll be a close encounter, and I'm still thinking about tipping the Lions, but at their home ground, the Giants should get it done.
Yeah, I think this one is... I think the first 3 games of this round are probably the 3 best ones, and I think this one is probably the best one of the year. In my opinion, they're the two best teams in the league at the moment. I think this is really tough for me. I think I'll have to look at the teams, but for the moment, I think I've got the Lions going. I think McCluggage and Lockie Neal could get the game, could win them the game. But actually, you know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to go with GWS. I think Jeremy Cameron might get them across the line, even though he's going to play on Harris Andrews, the best key defender in the league. I don't know. Probably GWS. Just
two teams
close.
Yep. Also, just looking, Brisbane at $8 to win the premiership, so they'll be in my multi for sure.
Sounds like a good bet.
Yeah, well, if the grand final does end up getting hosted together, I think they're right up there.
Yeah, I think they've probably got one of the best lists in the league at the moment. Zorko, McCluggage, some of their youth coming in. Berry's a gun. Harris Andrews in key defence is a gun. I think their only real weakness is their key forwards. I think if Oscar, the Big O, and Eric Hipwood, if they can have big seasons and big final series, I think they can definitely win the premiership.
Twilight game on the Saturday. We've got Gold Coast versus Sydney, and Gold Coast should win. Even without Matty Rao, they were still impressive. As I said before, Isaac Rankine, a contender to be one of the best ever, maybe, an absolute live wire, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching him play last week.
Yeah, this one, I would have tipped Sydney last week, but I think I'm going to have to go with Gold Coast this week. I think the loss of both Josh Kennedy and Isaac Heaney is massive for the Swans. I think probably they're two of their 5 best players, maybe. Obviously, Franklin's still out as well. So I think probably the worst team in the league right now. I'd like to verse them at the moment. But yeah, it'll be a close one, but I've got GWS.
What? GWS?
I've got Gold Coast, sorry.
There you go.
I actually forgot Lance Franklin was still in the league until you mentioned him.
Yeah, still a gun. Still, if he plays at any time in the next few years, he's still going to kick goals, Bez.
Richmond versus North Melbourne. Richmond should win.
Tip Richmond.
North in consecutive losses.
You people might not know yet, but Bailey absolutely one-sided, absolutely one-eyed Richmond fan. If you ask him at any stage to create the best team in the league, he'll just start with Basher Hooley, Dylan Grimes, every single Richmond player he'll have in. But if you know me, I'm a no-eyed Richmond fan, so I'm going to go with North Melbourne by 120 points. I think they can get across the line. Jack Zeeble, he's pretty good. Ben Brown's pretty good. Yeah, I can't see Richmond winning this one.
If Richmond was playing the local Resi's side, Xavier would still tip the local Resis.
Yeah, definitely.
Carlton versus Port Adelaide. As much as I wanted to tip the Blues, I've got to go with Port. I saw an article saying Carlton are potential premier favourites. As much as I like them, I think the Rider's getting a bit ahead of himself. Great young core, but not all the teams are going to play.
I don't think so. You got to have a look at the season, Dylan. Our best has been absolutely elite. We beat Geelong at GMHBA, first team to lead Geelong from the start of the game to the very end since 2003. We've been dominating. We're into the top 8. We're the only team to beat Essendon.
My surprise tip for the week, I've got Melbourne over the Hawks. The Hawks have been struggling at this venue, Giants Stadium, beaten easily by GWS and Collingwood. So I think Melbourne can win. They took down a challenging Gold Coast side, and I think they'll continue their winning streak with the win over Hawthorn.
Yeah, I think Melbourne will win. Hawthorn, as you said, have struggled a fair bit. Melbourne had a good win last week, and I don't think Hawthorn is quite as good as some people think. And I think Melbourne's a lot better than some people think. I'm a big fan of Melbourne's list. I think they've got some good players, and I really want to see them pull it all together and make a top 8 push, but obviously not beat us. That was not a fair game.
We'll move to the Western Derby, which should be a good clash. West Coast should win quite comfortably, I'd like to say so.
Yeah, I know the last time someone said a team was going to get smashed on this podcast, the team that was meant to get smashed ended up winning, but I'm going to put it out there. I think West Coast will absolutely smash Fremantle this week. I think they beat Adelaide last week. They're going to have a little bit of confidence back after winning a few games, but yeah, I can't see them winning without Fife.
Final game of the round, we've got my Saints versus the Adelaide Crows, and I'm kind of scared to tip the Saints. I'm very nervous, in fact, but I think, and I hope that we'll get over the line against the winless Crows.
Yeah, I think outside of the Crows and Sydney this week, after St Kilda's performance last week, I'm not sure I could tip them against anyone. But obviously they're versing the Crows, who have struggled to win all year, and I'm going to have to tip them. I want Hunter Clark to be big this week. I've got him in my super coach. He was playing pretty well all year until last week, where he was absolutely shocking.
Mm. Well, Zave, that just about wraps it up from us. I don't know what to think of this episode.
Yeah. Odd one.
Baz, anything from you?
Thanks for inviting me on. I know you guys won't allow me back on because I was an absolute nuisance, but it's good fun.
Right. Certainly good fun for us, good fun for the viewers to watch, hopefully. Zave, another one in the books for us. Next Monday, we should have the Shooting Guards podcast out with another special guest. So I hope you enjoy that. And until then,